Well, hey guys, welcome back. This is part two. Anyway, what we're going to be doing right now is that I have the brass, already resized. I've cut the cases. The one thing that I wanted to go ahead and address was that anvil in there. When I was telling you earlier about how you don't want to damage the anvil by using the decapper, that anvil right there makes contact with the primer when the primer is hit by the firing pin. So it's really important that you don't damage that. And I've been averaging these at about 65 thousandths, in depth in the primer pocket. So they're all turning out to about 65 thousandths. So we're going to go with that. Another thing too, you're probably going to look at this brass, for instance. Okay. Now, one thing we have to remember, the brass is just a vessel, for the powder. All right. And with that, okay, tarnishing like that and that sort of thing, I don't really, it really doesn't bother me that much. It's still going to work. I fired this once before and it worked. It didn't blow up on me. So this, if I get any, ruptured case stuff or whatever, I doubt very seriously we're going to have that sort of situation. It's not the prettiest stuff in the world. I'm going to go ahead and steal a line here from Han Solo. She might not be the prettiest thing in the world, but she's got it where it counts. So if you guys want to get on board, we can get out of here. So, anyway, let's go ahead and prime. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 3 of these primers. Let me go ahead and show you these. These are a lot different if you've never seen Berdan primers. Berdan primers are kind of like self-contained in the way of their design. Okay. They have a small foil covering over the priming agent, and then that dimple right there, that's what makes contact with the anvil that's in the cartridge case. My buddy Linkick, he has modified his priming tool to have a stop put in it, so when he presses them in there, okay, it will stop at a certain amount. I'm going by feel here. I haven't modified this yet. I believe I'm going to go ahead and do so later. So anyway, let's just go on and keep on keeping on here. All right. So got the primer in there. Got the cartridge case, and you just prime it like normal, okay? And what you want to do is you want to make sure that slightly below, the cartridge head. That's all you need to do. You don't need to, squeeze it in there so much that it crushes it. You don't want to do that because you might end up setting it off. So let's do that again. We're going to go ahead and in she goes. Let's check that one. Sometimes this whole thing can be about feel, I'm going to tell you what, I'm pretty impressed with this GP11 brass. I mean, I've been kind of looking at it, and, like I said, it doesn't look like much, but this stuff is really quality made. I mean, I think the Swiss, those guys, they knew what they were doing. I mean, when they designed this, it's really good brass. I don't know if you can see the difference or not. This is some PPU brass that I took out of my tumbler the other day. It's all nice and clean and it's all pretty, okay? But I don't know if you can see the differences in the two, okay? But the PPU brass is thicker, and also this brass is harder than the GP11 brass. The GP11 brass has more give to it. it's formulated out of a different brass alloy. So anyway, so there we go. And for my project, I'm only loading like 8 cases here. One thing that I was having problems with in my last video with the K31 is that I was ending up having problems with head spacing, and it was just like maybe a thousandths, and the bolt wouldn't go all the way forward. And so when the bolt doesn't go all the way forward by a couple of thousandths, then in the K31, when you pull the trigger, the firing pin will not have its leeway to hit the primer. So you get either light primer fires or light primer hits, or you don't get anything at all. And so what I did is I readjusted my die to give myself about 4 thousandths. Let's go ahead and get this thing going here. Here's another tip to you guys too. These right here, they're like Performance Plus, you know, tools, you know. These are not really expensive, you know, Matoyo or, you know, Starrett. I have a pair of Starretts, but in fact, I checked the Starretts against this, and this is just as accurate as a Starrett. And what you're really paying for in the Starretts is the alignment of the jaws, okay? And which we're not even really using right here. We're just using an overall, you know, cartridge, you know, comparator here. So it really doesn't really matter. I mean, these are good enough for the reloader, and you know, we'll be doing just fine. So anyway, let's check from the datum line right here. We'll check from the datum line on the shoulder to the bottom of the case, and we'll see how this goes. What I got is 1.798.5, and this should chamber in my K31 without any problems. Like I said, I cranked it down a couple of thousandths so that it would go ahead and size the cases to that length. See? We're right in there, you know? So, you know, close enough. We're in there. If you guys haven't got one of these yet, you know, from Hornady, I suggest you get one and just buy the whole kit. It's cheaper that way. This little device here on the end, okay, one thing that you have to remember is that what this does is it gives it a flat surface for the end of the case, you know, to sit against when you're doing your measurements. But the thing is with this is that this might be flat, but this might not be flat. Okay, you might have a little burr or something there, so you have to turn the case around a few times, you know, in the comparator, you know, to make sure that you don't have a high spot or a burr or something like that that's throwing your measurement off. So that's something that you need to, you know, kind of look at. So now that we've got our primers all set, okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to get Mr. Hornady lock and load auto powder measure. We're going to get that all loaded up with some IMR 4320, and we're going to throw some charges and get that going, and get these cases charged up with 46 grains. And I'm just going to go ahead and load these with either 168s, and I'm going to look around and see if I have some 175s. I think I have some 175s out there. I'll have to look. It's one thing about reloading, guys. You can accumulate a lot of bullets and half-used boxes and all kinds of stuff, and try to get a handle on that before it takes over control of your reloading bench. I'm sure Cookie knows what I'm talking about. Sometimes you just want to just say, yeah, the heck with it. I'm just going to shoot these up. So you go ahead and load these up and you go out and shoot them up just to get rid of them, because you're tired of seeing them out there on your reloading bench, And usually it's funny, you'll go ahead and be in a hurry. You'll just go ahead and, throw this stuff together and not in a hurry, but, you're not taking every single step, right down to the last detail with a magnifying glass with it, like you're making match ammo. And you'll go out and fire those rounds, and they will all go through the same hole, And you go, man, what did I do right? I mean, so reloading's funny that way. Yeah, funny stuff. Yeah. So anyway, I'll be back. I'll go ahead and get the 4320 in the auto charge, and we'll go ahead and we'll get going on that. So we'll be right back, and that will be part 3.